Bryan, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, Jay, thanks for being here. Hey, thanks for having me on, man. Great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited to talk to you because you've kind of gone through a lot of different transitions. You built a big business, you sold a business, you got another business. And my guess is that along the way, you probably learned a few things that you didn't know before you started.
Yeah. Luckily, in most cases, I didn't know what I didn't know. So that's what the naivete that got me started on both businesses. My first business was actually just a grass cutting business. My dad forced me to go mow the neighbor's yard on a hot summer day one day. He said, "Hey, listen, we got a job to do. We're going to go mow the neighbor's grass." Made me go cut the neighbor's lawn. He actually helped me do it. And we made $20. And ever since then, I was hooked. I was hooked on entrepreneurship, hooked on owning my own business. And I stuck with that lawn mowing business. By the time I was, done with high school, I had like 20 customers and a helper that was helping me mow yards. And I just stuck with that business all through college and put myself through college cutting grass. And over a 15-year period of time, I grew that into one of the largest landscaping companies in the state of Tennessee, over 150 people, over $10 million in revenue. So just growing that business from just myself on a push mower to over 150 people, literally 80, 90 trucks going out every day. I learned a lot through the School of Hard Knocks on how to build a business from scratch and how to build one that lasts. And in 2013, got that business sold. It was bought by one of the largest landscaping companies in the United States. And after that, I retired. I didn't have to work anymore. I was blessed to be able to do what I wanted to do. And I went through like a growth phase. I started to realize a lot of things about myself, one of which was I am wired to love business. I'm wired to be in the game, to want to be a part of something bigger than myself, to be building something interesting, to be literally like winning. And that business was the vehicle that gave me those things in life. And so after about 6 months of just sitting around getting bored, I decided, okay, time to work on my next idea. And that was the Uber for lawn mowing. Recruited 2 co-founders and we went to work on the app GreenPal. And here we are 7 years later on GreenPal. We have 200,000 homeowners using the platform to get their lawn mowed, and we're going to do $20 million in revenue this year. So 20 years of entrepreneurship in basically one industry on both sides of the table. I've learned a lot of how to build something from scratch and how to get through the low parts and how to just keep going and trying to get to the mountaintop.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. What's funny is, as many young boys, probably one of my first businesses was cutting lawns as well. And but I didn't grow it into a $10 million business. I think the most I made was a few grand, but I was pretty happy at that point. It's funny, the thing I remember now, because I run a marketing agency and we do a lot of design work as well. The very first thing that I ever designed, if you can even call it that, was a flyer for my lawn mowing business. And my uncle said, "You need a catchy name." So we made it an acronym after my name. It was JAYS, Jay's Action Yard Service.
Hell yeah, I love it.
And so I did that from 12 to 15. But I live in Florida and it's hot down here.
Hot.
And man, cutting grass in Florida is no joke, especially when you got a little push mower. So
yeah.
I eventually got into computers instead.
Well, you may have made the right move. I don't know. The lawn mowing business is tough, but all business is tough. One thing about the grass cutting business is that there's a lot of fundamentals in the lawn mowing industry that apply to all business. And so, doing what you say you're going to do, showing up on time, delivering a good quality service consistently, being competitive with respect to pricing, listening to your customer, constantly soliciting customer feedback to understand where you can improve. These things are fundamental in the lawn mowing business. They apply to all business. So it's a great way for somebody to cut their teeth on entrepreneurship.
Yeah, it's funny because even there's a story that I always tell about properly scoping a project. And so we do a lot of marketing and then application development as well. And inevitably, especially in application development, there can be a lot of scope creep. So everybody thought it was going to be this, and then it ended up being that. You built a big app, so you know how that goes.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we were doing this. Well, I didn't think that. And then it gets really messy really fast. I had a story when I was younger. I had committed to cut a lady's yard, and she was going to pay me $20 or something. I had a push mower. It wasn't self-propelled or anything. I had seen the front yard. I made the mistake of not going to look at the backyard.
I won't make that mistake again.
And so I went back there, and I don't think she'd cut that thing in 100 years. It was this thick. It was, and it was thick St. Augustine grass too. I mean, this
Yeah.
stuff is no joke. So I'm
Yeah.
literally like pushing the mower like 6 inches and then picking it up to let the grass blow and then over and over again. It was horrible. So I always learn, look at the whole project before you decide
Yes.
what you're going to quote.
And manage expectations. All of these things are fundamental to all business. And so, and a lot of people, I do a little bit of coaching and mentoring for free for entrepreneurs where I live in Nashville as a hobby. And a lot of business owners, new entrepreneurs, they think like like this lack of access to capital is like a big barrier to entry, why they can't get started. The truth is, you can get started on a business like a lawn mowing business, like a home cleaning service, like a roofing service, or something like that has low barriers to entry.
Yeah.
Do that for 5 years, learn business, get a track record, learn the fundamentals of how to build a company from scratch, and then you're ready to raise capital for a bigger business.
Man, I love that. And that's what's so great about like the country that we live in too, is like to go push a lawnmower, you don't need any education. You don't need any experience. You just need to be willing to work hard, show up on time, be kind, offer a good price. And like you said, and especially in those early days, you can just out hustle people.
Exactly.
And you could go make some extra cash on the side, and you start stacking that cash up, and then that cash becomes a thing that you do the next thing with, or not. I mean, in your case, you built a $10 million business. So
business is the thing that can be the vehicle to help you make something of yourself.
Right. I love it. So let's talk about that a little bit, because that's why we're here, is helping people figure out how to build a business that lasts. There is a gigantic difference between you pushing your lawnmower as a kid and running a $10 million organization with 80 trucks out on the road. So let's talk about that journey a little bit, because I think what a lot of people see is they see the big payout at the end, or they see, oh, he's running a $20 million software company or whatever, and they think that just happened for him. Well, I've been around long enough to know that's not true. I like what Dave Ramsey said. He's up there in Nashville with you too. He said, I busted my butt for 20 years and then I was an overnight success.
Oh, that's so true. And I mean, it's the truth. And like what the analogy that I kind of use to make sense of it is, you look at business like a video game, and like just the old school Super Mario Brothers video game. And like you don't even need to worry about Bowser. Like, you need to get through level 1. You need to throw the flag up at the end of level 1. And that might be $1,000 a month. It might be your first 10,000 in revenue. Whatever that goal is, like, let's get through level 1. Let's get through our first 5 customers. Maybe we're working nights and weekends on this thing. Let's just get through level 1. And then we can get to level 2. Level 2 might be 6 figures a year in revenue. And then level 3 might be our first million. And now we're in level 3. Now we're in level 4 land. We're trying to build a sales process. We're trying to figure out how to hire a sales team. And then level 5, 6, 7 are much different things. And you almost don't even need to worry about them until you get through the first 3 or 4 levels and get that momentum behind you. Because in a lot of ways, running a $250,000 a year business is harder than running a $5 or $10 million a year business, because you're both working in the business and working on the business. You're wearing all these multiple hats, and you're really having to try to play the long game. In both businesses that I've built from scratch to 8 figures, there were years where I was paying people that worked for me more money than I was making. But I was playing the long game. I was trying to get through level 3 or level 4. And I knew that, okay, in order to get through this level, this is how I need to do it. And so I think like that's how you can think about it and not get bogged down in all of the stuff that that doesn't even apply to where you're at in this stage of the game.
That's so good. I love that analogy. I'm a big analogy guy, but I've never used that one before, and I really like that.
It's one that makes sense to me. Like we all grew up playing Super Mario Brothers. You can just think about it like that. And then like the thing is, when you're on level 8, level 1 looks easy. Right. But level 1 wasn't easy when you're in it, Yeah,
for sure. And I think, I see so many times when people start businesses, they're so worried about like, things that just don't matter yet. They're worried about all these things that I'm like, you don't need custom hats yet. Like, you're not there. You don't need a big fancy office. You're not there. You don't need custom, labeled trucks and everything else. You're not there yet. And that's okay, because you got to work to get there. And I think most people just don't have the endurance to stomach the long game, because I think most good business is the long game.
I think a lot of this stuff you can look at from a macro standpoint, like personal psychology standpoint, and then a micro standpoint, like how am I going to get 5 customers this week? like at a macro level, you talk about stomaching it and the endurance and the relentlessness and the tenacity to get through those 5-10 years. And I think it just has to come back to you. There's several ways to make something of yourself, man. Sports, entertainment, finance. You can maybe work for a big company and be an executive, whatever. Music. Luckily for me, I'm not talented at any of these things. I had one thing. It was like I gotta work my butt off in this business to make something of myself. And so, like, to me, that was like the thrust in my life was like, okay, I'm always going to be working on my best idea, and that's it. So like, the going backwards is not an option. I'm always going to be going forwards. I'm always going to be working on my best idea, and so therefore, however long this takes is however long it takes. And there's like an old fable, old story of a general that would take his like armada of ships and bring them onto the shore to attack the enemy. And as his troops were storming the beaches, he would in the harbor burn the boats. Mm-hmm. And that analogy of burn the boats is something that's always played in my businesses. It's like when we get started, we're burning the boats. There's no going back. There's no retreat. We're going to keep going forward. And starting my second company, GreenPal, I recruited 2 co-founders. And they quit their jobs, their full-time jobs at Dell Computer, where they were making really good money. But they had quit, and they couldn't go back with their tails tucked. So we literally burned the boats. We had to go forward building this second company. And it was really hard. We ended our first year with like 12 or 15 customers, and half of them were my friends and family. So now we have over 200,000. But so it's like a lot of times you like success is the only option. The only way through this is forward, and you're not going to do anything but work on this, and that's how you get through the low points.
Yeah, that's so good. So talk to me about the co-founders a little bit, and here's what I mean about that. I've never had co-founders. I started this business that I run when I was 17. It's all I've ever done. And, but I know a lot of people who have other people involved. And so at some point you had the idea, you're like, hey, I got this idea. I want to do this thing. What made you want to bring in co-founders? What was the value of that? And what have you learned in that relationship? In your original business, were you the sole owner, or did you have co-founders as well?
My original business, I was the sole owner. And so, so side note, I'm very, 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 very lucky with the 2 co-founders that I built this business with. Probably I wouldn't be here today without them. So That aside, I don't recommend you take on co-founders because most of the time it does not work. Most of the time it's more important and more serious of a decision than who you marry. Mm. Because in most cases, if the business is successful, it's going to last longer than most marriages do. And it's actually easier to get a divorce than it is to unwind a business partnership. Mm-hmm. And so, and the reality is most people kind of rush into a business with a co-founder, and the other like paradigm is you're going to spend more time with this person you're starting this business with than you actually are your spouse. Yeah. As insane as that sounds. And so it's that difficult of a decision. You got to get it right on all of those levels for it to work. So that said, I don't typically recommend people rush out and get a co-founder. I think a lot of times that people do because they want a crutch, or they want somebody that to validate that that they're making the right choice with their life, and that somebody else is crazy enough to do it too. Maybe they are. So that aside, I don't recommend it. And times where it can be beneficial is that a lot of times in a technology-based startup, you need like what Paul Graham calls as a hacker and a hustler. Mm-hmm. You need somebody that is just good at the engineering and the technical side, and you need somebody who's just good at the sales and the product side. So if you can bring those 2 skill sets together, somebody who's just really wired for engineering, somebody who's really wired to hustle up a product and hustle up sales, that can be a marriage made in heaven if everything else works right. But most of the time it does not work. And in fact, a lot of times, like, the dynamics of co-founding teams are the things that sinks most startups. So all that to be said, I got really lucky because I just recruited 2 guys that I knew for a long time, who I trusted, and who I knew they wanted to make something of themselves in life. That's what I was optimizing for. And none of us knew how to code. None of us knew how to design software, any of that. And so we just, we taught ourselves this stuff over like a 3-4 year period of time. And it was that personality trait of somebody who just wanted to get to the mountaintop that got us through all of the technical things, like learning how to code, learning how to design software, learning how to market software. And so that's what got us through that. Most of the time that rarely happens where you just get lucky and that's the case.
Yeah, I like that idea of the hacker and the hustler. Interestingly, one of my top clients who we built a software application for, he's definitely the hustler and I'm probably more the hacker. Now, internally, it's funny because in my business, I probably am a little bit more of the hustler and I actually have more hackers on my team.
Yeah.
But I can see how those dynamics play out a lot, especially on the software side, because you've got somebody who really understands the technical piece and then somebody else who knows how to just get out and get it done. And usually those two things are somewhat in contrast. They're not usually the same person.
Rarely do you see them happen together.
Hard.
The challenge is delegating the technical side when you have no clue what you're doing on the technical side. We made a mistake when we started GreenPal. I brought my two co-founders together, and we genuinely believed that what we were going to do was pay a dev shop in Nashville to build GreenPal, and then we would just market it and we would just be off and going.
Yeah.
And man, it was a total flop. You know, we put like $150,000 in it, and to your point earlier, there's feature creep, and it was not scoped out right, and we didn't even really know what it needed to be.
Yeah.
And so then we released it, and then we were like, holy crap, it needs all these other things, it needs these things fixed, we don't know how to do any of this, what are we going to do? And we just basically had to start all over and teach ourselves how to code and build it ourselves. It was a really hard part of the journey. Yeah.
Wow, that's tough.
It was tough.
What I'd love to hear about is, you talked earlier about how you always work on your best idea. And you kind of focus on that. I like that. And what I'm curious about is, you seem like the kind of guy who you probably had a couple ideas, but this is the one where you're like, okay, GreenPal is the idea. Number one, how did you decide that was the idea and you were going to basically come out of retirement, if you will, and hustle this thing down? And number two, what was the first step that you kind of moved forward with? Because I think that's where people get stuck, because they get so stuck in the quagmire. I'm always like, you just need to take the first step. So how'd you decide it was the idea to move forward with? What made you make that call? And then what was one of those first couple of steps that you made to move it forward?
Yeah. So there's a motto, fire bullets, then cannonballs. And so that's what we, that's a motto that has carried us through this entire journey, was just trying to distill things down into what are the smallest actionable things we can take to move to the next step. And so like when we were just in the nascent, like, okay, is this even a good idea? To a degree, I was kind of solving my own problem, because I spent 15 years in the industry, and I knew and I saw just how damn difficult it was for somebody who has grass this tall, who needs to find somebody to come mow it. People would call my office with my first company, 20, 30, 40 people a day begging us to come cut their grass. And we no longer did residential basic services. And so we would refer them out to people who did, and then they would call back like, those people didn't call me back. It was just a big pain in the ass. And so I saw that this was happening, and I knew technology could solve it, but I didn't really know if somebody would like use an app to get their grass cut. I didn't know that. And I thought, shit, if I'm going to spend the next 5-10 years of my life on something, I really want to at least like de-risk this. And so what we did, man, this is humbling, but we rented a kiosk in the mall, and we were handing out $5 Starbucks gift cards, and we were just trying to see if we could beg people to sign up for it. And we had a little hacked together prototype.
Wow.
And we were like, hey, we're giving out your first free lawn mowing free. You just got to use this app, download the app. And we were just seeing if we could just get people to convert on that proposition. And aside from the fact that, like, one of the most humbling things you can do is sit at a kiosk in a mall, because nobody wants to talk to you. Like, even
like
to this day,
the long walk around.
a free we couldn't give away these damn gift cards, man. I'm trying to give you $5 for free, and I want nothing from you. I swear to God, it was so humbling. But we did get enough validation for people to say, yeah, no, this is kind of cool. Once we got over the stigma of, God, just leave me alone. Once we got over that stigma, we were able to get enough validation from people like, yeah, I would use this just enough to proceed to the next level of, okay, let's pay a dev shop to build the prototype, to build the first version. Built the first version. Then we got just enough people to use that first version to get the validation that it was worth like going all in on. And this is over like this, everything I've just told you is over like a year period of time.
Yeah.
And the first version, we had no distribution strategy. So we had to like pass out door hangers all over Nashville, Tennessee. We passed out like 100,000 door hangers all over Nashville, just trying to get people to download the app and use it. And even though that it was a clunky, hard to use piece of crap that didn't work, we got just enough people to use it that we met with them in coffee shops, met with them face to face, try to figure out, okay, how do you normally find a lawn mowing service, and where did this thing let you down? And the one thing we did learn was that they were at least disappointed. They were at least upset that it didn't work. That to us was enough validation. Like, okay, well, they liked the idea of push a button, get the grass cut, and they were disappointed that that didn't happen.
Right.
So yeah, let's keep going. And rather than what you don't want is an apathetic, like, oh, I downloaded it just for the hell of it. I don't know. You want somebody who's disappointed that you didn't deliver on the promise.
Wow, that's great.
Now just go deliver on the promise.
Dude, this is so good. I hope people are listening, to the things that you're saying, because I've heard a lot of people talk about these ideas, and two things really resonate. One, they're just like, I love that fire bullets and then cannonballs. That is so, so good. I see people make this mistake all the time. They want to go guns blazing, and they haven't validated the idea. And so many times people come to us because they want us to build the application for them, and we're like, and I'm like, hold on, have you? And it's clear to me they've done zero research.
Yeah.
I'm like, have you even Googled to see what else is out there and see if it's even interesting, or see if people are searching for these things?
Right.
And you basically, to boil it down, you basically said, we validated it first, then we built it. And people get that backwards all day long.
Well, and the reality is there's a difference between hard work and difficult work. Hard work is like approaching you and paying you good money to go build something that may or may not be a good idea. Difficult work is going through the customer development process, is going through those customer interviews, is just meeting with people face to face, is maybe sitting in the kiosk in the mall. That's difficult work because it just requires so much more of your mental capabilities. The easy thing to do is just try to pay you, to go build something that may or may not be, it probably may or may not work. Who knows?
Right.
But yeah. And it's like the difficult work is going through those cycles and really uncovering through a customer development process. Is this something we need to spend the next decade of our life working on or not? And it's counterintuitive. People get it wrong. We've gotten it wrong a lot. Luckily there's methodologies and books that can kind of help you walk you through this as an entrepreneur. For us, one that was critical was the Startup Owner's Manual by a guy named Steve Blank, really good. And then of course the Lean Startup by Eric Ries. Those are two really good manuals on just how to walk through this process and try to de-risk the journey every step of the way.
I think the hard thing too for a lot of people when they hear these kind of stories is just the reality of when you're out there renting the kiosk in the mall, you're operating at a negative loss at this point. You're paying for the kiosk. You're not getting paid for your time, and you're feeling somewhat humiliated trying to do what you're trying to do just to get the data that you need to make the decisions. But if you hadn't done that, you would not have 200,000 customers today. No,
we would have veered off on some wrong vector. And so there's a couple things there. Like the one thing that holds people up, I think, is that in any business getting started, they don't want to be seen at the bottom. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, like we talked about a minute ago, somebody who's just cutting their teeth on entrepreneurship and thinks they need to go start a $10 million business, they need a $10 million infusion of capital to do it. And then they think that's the thing holding them back. The reality is, no, you need to take a step back and start a business. Requires no capital. Do that for 5 years, learn business, get 100 or 200 grand or $500,000 in the bank, then go start that big business. But the thing that holds people up is they don't want to be seen at the bottom. Yeah. Whether they admit it or not, that holds them up. And so for me, one of the beautiful things about business is that it causes me to be a more humble person. It causes me to have a constant stream of humility pumped into my life, because the marketplace will tell you with remarkable accuracy where you suck and where you need to work on. And it does not care. It does not care about your feelings, does not care who you are, doesn't care how hard you worked on this thing. It will tell you with remarkable accuracy where you stink. And so like for me, running my first business, $10 million company, hundreds of employees, big landscaping company in my little niche. I was kind of like a known commodity, sold that, one of the only people to ever do that in this, in Nashville, Tennessee. And then here I am in the mall. Will you use this thing?
Let me give you a
27
gift card.
$27, please. $5 gift card. Me. It made me very, really, really good lesson in humility.
But it's so great because, I think this kind of makes me think about this reality of there is this like fire of entrepreneurship, I think, that's inside of people sometimes. And especially guys like you who like have built something really successful over time. And then I'll say they try to retire because they realize, and I always tell people this too, like, even I tell people that are, Christians, I'm like, when you look at the Bible, Adam worked in the garden before the fall, before anything happened. People were literally made to work. We're made to do things. And so if we're not doing anything and we're not creating any purpose, we feel like we have no meaning. If we have no meaning, what's the point, And then you can get depressed really fast.
I think that's where the essence of life comes from, is purpose. And your business can be your purpose. It is for me. It always has been. Like, it's the thing that causes me to level up. It's the thing that causes me to get out of bed in the morning. The thing that causes me to do things I have no interest in doing, learning skills I have no interest in learning. Like, it is the thing that causes me to keep moving forward. And like purpose, no matter what, purpose doesn't have to come from business. It doesn't have to come from your career, but it can. Yeah. And for me, it's what works for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I'm thinking about it as you've built both of these businesses over time is it starts with you and then you plus a couple other people. And then before you know it, you got a team of people, some people in-house, probably got some contractors, got outside vendors, you got all this stuff going on. Thinking specifically about building a team, I think this is where a lot of people get stuck. I know I've gotten stuck here plenty of times. You hire the wrong person, you don't let them go quick enough, or whatever the mentality may be. What have you learned over time about what it takes to build a team to come alongside you? Because it's your big vision, but you got to get people that are going to get on that ship and sail with you. So what have you learned that's kind of helped you improve your team building over time?
Yeah, a few things. One is like delegation from a standpoint of stewardship and not abdication. So what I mean there is, it's like when I'm delegating something, it's because I've done it, or I've had my hands in it, or I've been close to it. I understand how we do it. I understand this is our process. I understand this is why we do it this way. And that's how I delegate it to somebody who has more skills to go deep on that thing than I do, and can do it better than I can. But that's how I delegate from a standpoint of stewardship. I'm giving you these roles, this role and these goals to go accomplish. And whereas, like, okay, let's say bookkeeping. I hate bookkeeping. Who doesn't? Everybody hates bookkeeping. Bookkeeping sucks. It's like nobody, I mean, maybe some people do, but I don't. And so rather than like, but I still, like, for the first 5 years of this second business and in my first business, did the bookkeeping because I needed to learn it. I needed to know how to do it. So then when I hand it off, I'm like, okay, I need you to handle the bookkeeping and then give me these reports, give me these KPIs. I know how it goes. I know what goes into it, what comes out. Rather than saying, oh, I just hate bookkeeping, you handle it. Then that's a recipe for, like, you wake up and there's no money in the bank to cover payroll. And so, like, the ability to build a team around you, and especially those first 5, 10, 20 hires, and being able to delegate to them from a stewardship standpoint, where you have some sort of mastery, like the 80-20 kind of philosophy. You have 20% of the skills that equates to 80% of the execution. I think is the difference between success and failure, whether you're hiring an engineer, a designer, a salesperson, a bookkeeper, a CFO, whatever. Like, you need to have some sort of acumen on every one of these things, or else it's really, really hard and you're really kind of relying on luck.
I think that's really good. Delegate from stewardship, not abdication. I always say on my team, I can do everybody's jobs because I did them at some point.
Right.
They just do their job better than I would do it now.
Way better, way better. They can focus.
Really,
they have better skills. They like doing it better than you do. That's the goal. That's where you want to get to. But worst case scenario, if you had to get back in there, you could. And I think like every business owner, it pays to be a generalist. Like, you can just almost like Navy SEAL, like parachute into any role and like get in there and do it. Even like back in my last company, I had 3 full-time mechanics working for me, just keeping trucks going, keeping mowers going. If need be, I could get in there and drop a transmission out of a Ford F-250. I don't want to, but I've done it. And I know when I'm hiring a mechanic, this is what they need to know how to do. And so it's like, it helps to be a generalist.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other thing you said, which I think is really valuable and people need to be aware of, is giving people clear roles and clear goals.
Yeah.
It's nice that those rhyme as well. But I think having written roles around what are the expectations, and I always tell people too, when you're writing out what their expectations are for a role, don't just put the minimum expectation. Write down what success looks like. What does it look like to win in that role? That's what that person needs to know. So when you're sitting down on a quarterly or biannually or annual or however often, or whoever's reviewing them, and go, hey, we wrote this down. We said this is what success looks like. How do you think you're doing?
Yeah.
And let them decide,
We agreed. This is what we agreed on.
That's right.
This is what we agreed on. And then a lot of times too, man, it's like, you as the owner, you got to be able to hire fast and fire faster. If somebody's not working out, you got to cut them loose. You just got to. And a lot of times we suffer mediocre team players because we think we're doing the right thing, but in fact, we're making the weak decision all the way around. It's a weak decision for everybody else on the team. It's a weak decision for the business. It's a weak decision for our customers, for our investors, for our stakeholders, and for that person. We need to get them somewhere else. Let's help them find a job somewhere else. So it's and I'm guilty of that. I have suffered people that shouldn't have been on the bus for years when I should have cut them loose and gone through the work of defining the role better and defining the processes around that role better and finding the better person to put in that slot.
Yeah, I've made that mistake plenty of times where I just held on because I always think well, first of all, the burden that I bear when I hire somebody is, I made the final decision to hire them. Yeah. And so at some point I thought they were good enough for this job. And so either we've not been clear enough of what the expectations are, or we're just not holding them accountable, or they're really just not good enough to do it. And so the only one of those that I can fix is we've not been clear enough with the expectations. That's why I always kind of go, all right, let's back up a little bit. Let's look back at what we wrote down. Let's talk about it together. This is what we decided, right? Yep. Okay. Yep. Well, in 30 days from now, I expect to see these things that are on this list improve. And if they don't, we have a problem.
Yeah. And there's 2 ways to look at it too. Some people will tell you want to hire just magnificent people and get out of their way and let them just run with their talent. I think that's great. I have yet to find these silver bullet people. These magnificent unicorn people who can just crush stuff. They exist, but I don't know. I've yet to find them. What works for me is this is our process. This is our system. This is these are the output metrics that we expect. And then these are the input metrics that we expect from you to get to that output metric. So let's say we want to increase the number of vendors that use GreenPal by 1,000 new vendors this year. That's the output metric. And so you as the salesperson, how are you going to get there? Well, here are the input metrics. Well, it boils down to making 10 touch points on LinkedIn every day, reaching out to 20 people on a Facebook marketplace every day, reaching out to 10 people off of Yelp every day. These are the input metrics that go into the output metric. This is the system. This is how we want you to run the process. We defined it for you. And this is where your talent comes into play. That's what works for us, is laying out a process for the person to operate, rather than just saying, hey, just go crush it. This is what we want. I've yet to find those people.
So speaking specifically of those systems and processes, inputs and outputs, those aren't things that most people are just born knowing how to do, right? I know for me, I struggled with figuring all that stuff out for a long time. I'm still figuring some of it out, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. We all are.
So what did you do to learn those things over time? Was it traditional education? Was it books, podcast? How did you figure out, okay, we need processes in place? Here's how did you figure all that out as you grew in business?
Yeah, books, YouTube, podcasts, no traditional education, although I do have a degree in business management. None of that has come into play in any of my businesses. The reality is that, I have tried to, every minute that I'm in a vehicle, I'm listening to an audiobook or a podcast, trying to learn how smarter entrepreneurs do this stuff better. And, one book that comes into play is a book called Predictable Revenue that talks about how you develop a sales process and take it down to the steps and the actual execution, kind of like what we're touching upon here. Books like that, books that people that have done it, who have built 9-figure businesses, billion-dollar businesses, and have created these processes within their organization. So then you as the entrepreneur can boil that down into your 5-person team, 10-person team, 20-person team, because that's really kind of where we're playing here. And learning from those people and installing it in your business is how you can do it. And the good thing is today, this information is more accessible than it's ever been.
Yeah.
They're like on YouTube, there's so many good resources that you can just tap right into. Podcasts like this one, where people are talking about this kind of stuff, who are running 9-figure plus businesses, that you can then learn from how the big guys are doing it and boil it down in your business. The key is, as the business owner, you're wearing all of these hats. If you got 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 employees, you're wearing all these hats, and like, you just got to focus on one thing and just do it. Like, maybe it's the next 6 months, we want to create a training system that can train customer support agents or train salespeople like a McDonald's. Like, literally, we don't want to turn people over, but we can get somebody up and running in a week if we need to, rather than trying to hire this mythical person who's just great already. We have a training system now. We have a system that gets one of these people up to snuff on our methodology, and just focus on that one thing, get it done, and then rinse and repeat, and look for places in your business where you can create systems around what it is you're trying to do. And if you do that for 5 years, next thing you know, you got a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, that's awesome. So much good advice there. I'm going to check out that predictable revenue book. It's very rare that somebody mentions a book that I've not listened to already.
It's not a real popular one, but it's really good.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out. So let's talk about the application itself. Let's talk about GreenPal. We've talked a lot about business theory, ideas, how do you build a team, how do you put systems in place, a lot of structural stuff that I think is going to be really valuable for people. I mean, I've already got some great bullet points that I'm enjoying listening to you. Talk about the application itself. What does it do? What's the problem that it solves for people? And maybe even how is it better than it used to be, years ago when you started it?
Yeah. Oof, man, here we are 7 years in. We focus on one thing. I think in a lot of times, small business, and particularly when you are inventing a product from scratch, the one thing you can do that's at your disposal is focus. And we focus on one thing, the easiest way in the world to get your grass cut. Even if it's 4 feet tall, you can hire somebody to mow your yard without even making a phone call. And so it's the best, largest network of landscape maintenance professionals that you can just hire right off the shelf just by downloading our app. And the way it works as a homeowner, you download GreenPal, you put your address in, you'll get quotes back, 5 quotes back in less than a minute in most cases. You can read reviews about which lawn mowing services you want to work with, how often they show up on time, data like how often they get booked for a second mowing and so on. And then you can make the best choice you want to make based off price and reliability and ratings. And then hire them. They'll come out and mow your grass, and you'll get a picture of the completed lawn right on your mobile app. And then if that went well, you can just set it up for the rest of the season for weekly or bi-weekly lawn mowing cuts. And it just happens in the background. It's like set it and forget it. It's just invisible. And you don't have to worry about this thing anymore. It's really strange. There's a case of like the disappearing lawn guy. Like, these services just come and go. There's low barriers to entry, like they're reliable for a period of time and then they just go away. We kind of help the homeowner sidestep all that. Like, we help you bypass the guys that are just going to flake on you. And we help you just hire the reliable ones who are just going to show up and do it at a good price. Now, that's what we do for the homeowner. On the other side, it's because it's a true multi-sided marketplace that we've built here. We have 2 products, and so on the other side of the transaction is the app that vendors use, that lawn care services use. And that's really where we go deep. We really try to materially improve the lives of these service professionals, because making a living in the lawn mowing business is really tough. I mean, you got to wake up at like the crack of dawn every day. You sharpen lawnmower blades and like go out and just cut grass in the hot summer sun all day long. You're sweating, you're tired, your back hurts, you got grass all over you. Like, then when you get home, typically you got to do bookkeeping. You got to like mail out invoices. You're pissed off because everybody's like 60 and 90 days behind on your accounts. You don't have enough money to pay like your payroll. It's like a total nightmare. Hard. We set out to solve and make a lot of those things simpler and easier for lawn mowing services. So they don't have to wait on getting paid. They get paid in 24 hours for the work that they do for their clients on the GreenPal platform. They don't have to do things like scheduling. That's all handled for them with the technology. All of their route optimization is laid out for them. So all of these things, it's like that they normally would be doing on like Excel or pen and pad or a calendar, like we handle for them to where they can like spend time with their family, quite frankly, and they can just grow their business by just working hard. That's really why we do what we do. We really try to improve these people's lives. We help to give them like access to the American dream just by plugging in and making material income on our platform. And that's what makes it a lot of fun.
Oh, that's really cool. I can tell as you're solving two problems essentially, one for the homeowner and one for the, person that's cutting grass. But the one that you're really passionate about actually is helping that person who's cutting grass
Absolutely
have a better life. And I always tell people, like, you got to know what your why is. And like, I can hear it and all of that. Like, it's to improve the lives of people like who are out doing the work. Cause you've been out there, you've done that work, you know what it feels like, and you know what those pains are, and you can help eliminate a lot of those things for them. All they've got to do is sign up for your service. You're going to take care of all those things for them. It'd be cheaper than them hiring a bookkeeper, an administrator, and all these people to help manage their systems. And
exactly.
They can just do what they do, which is show up and cut a good yard,
Exactly. I mean, no high school diploma, and you can make 6 figures a year owning your own business, cutting lawns by plugging into the GreenPal platform. And we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those stories. That's why we do what we do. And it's a lot of fun, like helping people improve their lives. Like, we're not doing it for them. We're just giving them the tool set for them to plug into.
Right.
And like giving them that opportunity is really, really, really cool.
So last thing I want to ask on kind of a practical level, because I'm just curious, is I guess you had a little bit of a chicken or the egg scenario at the beginning where you needed people to sign up to ask to get their grass cut. But in order for them to get their grass cut, you needed people that were cutting grass on the app to go cut that grass. So how did you overcome that barrier where you needed both of those things to happen? You need people that are willing to go cut grass and people who wanted to get their grass cut, but you needed both kind of at the same time. So how did you deal with that?
Yeah, especially doing it with no outside capital too.
Right.
We did not raise any money to build this company. We bootstrapped it every step of the way. And so that was really tough. That cold start chicken and egg problem is really hard for every marketplace that works kind of like ours does. And so going back to one thing I mentioned before is focus. We focused on one city, Nashville, Tennessee. We knew if we could make it work in Nashville, we can make it work anywhere. Yeah. We spent 3 years just in one city. Now we're in every major city in the United States, but we spent 3 long years in Nashville just trying to make this damn thing work. So as we were going through the trial and error process of trying to figure out, okay, this is how we recruit suppliers, this is how we recruit homeowners, and this is like the playbook that we could roll out to another city. It was just that focus on trying to make it work in one city and getting the flywheel rolling, and then learning about the things that work and then applying that to a playbook. In the early days, it goes back to the video game. Level 1, I need 20 guys that cut grass to use this crappy product that I have built. And how am I going to do that? Well, okay, one thing I can do is I can just call them and offer them free coaching on how to run a lawn mowing business. And then part of that is, hey, will you use this piece of crap that I've built to go service these 20 lawn mowing customers that we're doing like other things to get them on. And it was like just doing that and going through that cold start process, that hand-to-hand combat, hand cranking. I then began to understand, okay, this is how we craft our value proposition to lawn care services. This is how we could onboard them in a frictionless, self-serve manner, and just like distilling stuff down to what you can do, to like what's in your little circle of influence. That will help you understand how it could scale and how you could do it in an automated fashion.
Yeah, that's so good. I think so many people make that mistake of trying to do all things for all people, and that idea of going, we're going to focus this one place, do this one thing, we're going to do it really well, and
learn.
Yeah, exactly.
And learn.
Absolutely. So I need to land the ship a little bit because we're running out of time, which is always a good sign of a good conversation. To me, awesome. 3 last things. Number 1, what does work-life balance mean to you, and how has it changed through different seasons of your life? Number 2, where can people find you online to learn more about you and what you do? And last question will be any parting advice for building a business that lasts. So first question, briefly, work-life balance. I know it's a big question. What does it even mean to you, and how has it changed through different seasons of life?
I think it should evolve for every business owner. I think when you're first getting started, the concept of work-life balance needs to tilt more towards the work. Like getting over the cold start is really hard. Like, you are your business,
Yeah.
7 days a week, head on the pillow, I'm thinking about it. Waking up, I'm in the shower. When the water hits me, I'm thinking about my business. Like, you are your business. And so there is no work-life balance in the first 5 years. After you get a good business going, you get over, a few million in revenue, and you've got a good team around you, you've got systems, and, you've laid out some goals, and, it's going smooth. It's never perfect, but it's going smooth. Then you can pull back a little bit and maybe not work 80 hours a week, maybe only work 40 or 50 or 60 or whatever. And then have some balance. And that's where the beauty of business comes to play, is like, you can have this business that enables you to travel, enables you to spend more time with your kids, or enables you to be a better spouse, or a better church member, or what have you, whatever is important to you. Like, your business can be the vehicle that delivers that. But the first 5 years, I think work-life balance is something that is a trap, because a lot of these younger entrepreneurs just think, okay, I'm just going to manifest it, and I just want to enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's going to cause you to spend 5 years spinning your wheels, and you're going to get bitter. Don't do it. Just go to work somewhere and invest your money in real estate or something. Don't do it. So that's my opinion on work-life balance.
I agree.
Second question. What was the second question?
Where can people find you online?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn has gotten a lot better over the last few years. It used to be a joke 10 years ago. Now it's a good product. I hang out there more than I do anywhere on social media. So hit me up on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to, if you have a specific question about something based on my experience and something you're working on, hit me up with a specific question. I can give you my thoughts.
Awesome. And then last question, any parting thoughts on that you'd give to other entrepreneurs and business growers to build a business that lasts?
Yeah. I could take this practical, or I could take it high level. I'll go high level. So I just read a book called A Million Miles in 1,000 Years.
So
and
good. Donald
you've
Miller.
read, yeah. What's the author's name? Donald Miller?
Donald Miller. The irony of that, not to sidetrack us
Should
too
be
much.
blazed in my head, because such a good book.
That book is amazing. And sorry to sidetrack you, but his primary framework now, he's actually in the business growth business now, and he wrote another book called Building a Story Brand, which is all around marketing. It's all around marketing messaging, and you'll see the roots of it in A Million Miles in 1,000 Years. But ironically, our agency is actually one of the few Story Brand certified agencies. So I've spent a lot of time with him and his team. So that's an interesting connection. Sorry,
that's cool, man. Like, that's an awesome book. I think the thesis of that book is, to live an interesting life, you have to live an interesting story.
Yep.
And so, to abstract that one layer more, for me, it's like, your business can be the storyline of your life. Like, you can be the hero of your business. Your business can lay out this storyline where you are the main character, you're the protagonist, and you're overcoming overcoming obstacles to get what it is that you and your team want. And so, like, business can be the thing that causes you to live out that story, whereas you wouldn't have access to any of this fun, cool, interesting stuff had you not started this business. So that can be the thing that gets you through the ups and downs. And if you almost think of it as a story, every hero goes through conflict and goes through challenges. If not, it'd be a pretty damn boring movie. So like, think about that as you're going through challenges, and think about your business in the context of a grand story. Can help you get through the highs and lows.
So now people are going to think that I teed you up for this, because in a couple of weeks in January, I'm actually teaching a workshop called Hero on a Mission.
Awesome.
And it's actually built around Donald Miller's framework for this, and he teaches it. It's abstracted from that book originally, but it kind of goes from there. And the idea is basically exactly what you said, which is, how can you become the hero of your own life? Because fate is a horrible author, is what he says. And then the other thing is, this is the real linchpin from a marketing messaging standpoint that I'll leave everybody with today as well. While you should be the hero of your own story, the hero in your business's story is actually the primary customer that you serve.
I like it.
And your role in the business is to be the guide. So the comparison that I always use for this is, in Star Wars, the hero is Luke Skywalker, right?
Yeah.
The guide is either Obi-Wan Kenobi or Yoda, right?
Yeah.
And in the business world, this is perfect for what you do as well. you're not Luke Skywalker. In your own life, you are. In your own life, you're the hero. But in your business, you're Yoda or Obi-Wan Kenobi, because you come alongside the business owner, the guy who's cutting grass, or the girl who's cutting grass, to help them win the day. And that's your job. And that's the most powerful character in the story. So great way to wrap that up. People now think I teed you up. I didn't. Bryan, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been an absolute joy. I know I took a lot away. I think a lot of other people did too. Wish you all the best.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, I hope this video has helped you with some tips and ideas to build a business that lasts. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss out on the next videos that we roll out. And more importantly, for some awesome free resources, head over to our website at buildingabusinessthatlasts.com. You can get a free copy of my book there, where I tell you how I have built an agency that's grown year over year for the last 20 years in a row. So go grab that, buildingabusinessthatlasts.com, and make sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks. We'll see you soon.